No, I mean, so one of the things that we do in my discipline is we collect stories of people and try to learn from the wisdom of other cultures or certain groups within our own culture. So we're always trying to like get people to tell their own stories. And so sometimes that's just about making a framework of questions and then just getting out of the way because people can talk about things that they care about. So
Oh gosh, that's funny that you bring that up, and I know we should be doing this on tape, but
yeah.
I go to the farmer's market and that's all I do. And if a customer comes and asks me about a plant, because I sell plants first and the vegetables and stuff came second. Still farming, but not the same. And people start asking me about like a Rose of Sharon, and pretty soon I'm telling them how to propagate it, and I'm telling them what medium to use and when to do it, and then I've got 3 or 4 or 5 people standing there listening, and so I'm a talker. There's no doubt. I'm not a salesperson. I am an engager, and when people engage with me, they buy my product because of that. Because what else is there?
Yeah.
You have to connect with people.
That's right. I love that. And I love that you're bringing something that people are curious about but don't know how to access on their own or maybe feel intimidated.
So I just start spilling it out, and I give them my card. I say, call me with a question. Don't call me because you need to buy something. Call me when you want to ask a question.
Yeah.
And people at the market say, why are you telling them all your little secrets and tricks? I said, because the more I tell them, the more interested they're going to get and the more they're going to buy.
Yes.
If I withhold information, I'm crippling everybody involved here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. It's just stupid. I'm sorry. I'm a talker.
No worries. Well, I know that you mentioned 1970s St. Paul, Minnesota, and that always makes me think of Mary Tyler Moore. But I know you were there too. So is that where you started doing gardening or farming?
No, I was born in 1960. My folks had moved up from Missouri. They were both raised here. And my dad never outgrew the Ozarks, I guess, because he bought a little 5-acre hobby farm with a ramshackle house in an old shed called the Lazy T. And I think he pretended he was in Missouri. We didn't live like any of our other neighbors. We didn't have steps to our basement. We didn't have doors on our bedrooms. We had a little farmhouse because my dad valued the acreage more than anything.
So the house was relatively plain, but you had good, rich soil.
Yeah, and so my dad had probably over an acre garden. And I would pull weeds. And I would help my mom pickle beets, and she would can applesauce, and she had her tomato sieve and her apple peeler and her pestle where she smushed the tomatoes and made tomato juice and tomato sauce, and she canned beef, and we had some pigs, and it was a little hobby farm, and they both worked full-time at Armour's packing house. And they came to Minnesota originally because that's where the work was. And the proof of their right choice is that the relatives that I have that stayed in Missouri and never left, they simply lived the next generation the same as the last one. Nothing much changed. And so I was given a different opportunity. And I don't exactly know what that opportunity was, except that my mom and dad had more money. I left school very young though, ran away from home, didn't get a whole lot of education, which I'm actually thankful for, because I think that a person who reads a lot is probably going to be better off following what they're interested in than being forced to learn things that may not impact them ever in their life. So.
Yeah. So you started doing that as a kid. Have you had any other gardens or farms before you came back to Missouri?
Okay, I'm going to go back again. My dad must have taught me. My mother wasn't much interested in plants. She did the homemaker part, but my dad grew the plants, and so I don't recall a time I didn't know what a tomato leaf looked like, or an apple leaf, or when to pick them, or how to pull a weed. I always knew. He must have taught me that. So when I grew up, left home, was never really on bad terms with my parents except for a year or two. I got married very young, and I immediately had a garden, which was in the city, off of West 7th Street near downtown St. Paul, not 2 miles from downtown. But they let us have a garden in the backyard, and I grew green beans and just tomatoes, a few things. That was fun. And then I moved on from there, ended up getting divorced, went out, lived in Cottage Grove, had another big garden. That was fun because it was literally untilled soil. I did it by hand and dug it up and flipped it and pulled all the weeds out. And it was wonderful. And then we had to sell that place and moved back to St. Paul. Tiny little lot in the city, 40 by 100 with a double house on it. So the lot size was, and I did garden around the edges of the property, 24 inches square, around 3 sides in the backyard. And then in the alley, there was an unused area that I dug up and planted my tomatoes and peppers.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always grown something. Then we moved here. My husband and I spent a lot of time trying to get out of Minnesota because property prices had gone so high. And I had lost my cleaning contracts because of the recession, I guess, in 2008 or so. So we started looking for property because if we weren't going to work, we didn't need to be close to where the jobs were. We were going to sell the house and retire. But the house did not sell, and we were stuck after finding a property here in Missouri in '05. We didn't get to move down here for 10 years.
Whoa.
Because we still had all the obligations that went with owning the house. Anyway, finally, we've got the house remodeled. I had a house, I gotta go back.
Okay.
I bought a house, I was totally dead broke. And I wanted a place. I was in a bad relationship. I left the relationship. I was looking for a house because nobody would rent to me with my 3 dogs and my couple of cats. And I wasn't going to give them up. So I cruised the neighborhoods looking for a house, and I found this house on a huge lot on the west side of St. Paul. And it said for sale by owner in the window. It was just a dirty little sign. And I contacted the owner, and he wanted like $35,000 or whatever it was. So he wouldn't take my offer of 30, and I went away. And this was in probably 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And so a couple weeks later, I'm still looking, and I call him again, and I tell him that I'll give him 35 with the contract for deed, with 5,000 down and like a 4-year balloon, something ridiculous. Because I'd sold real estate for a couple of years, so.
It sounds like you know what you're doing, yeah.
So, but there were 3 lots with this property, and they weren't all clear. There was a possibility of a cloud on one. He didn't have a clear title. So I gave him $5,000 down. I maxed out my credit cards. I borrowed everything I could to get that $5,000 because at that time I was self-employed cleaning houses. After a long history of hurting myself at jobs, I had neck and back injuries, and I was just a walking disaster for an employer because I'd had work comp cases already 3 or 4 times. They weren't going to hire me. So I started cleaning houses. I did that with my sister. So I didn't have any real income to get a mortgage of any kind. So I got into this agreement with this guy with this really almost condemned house on 3 city lots, though. So it was 3 50-foot lots by 100. Huge corner lot, beautiful. And I proceeded to haul in dirt and buy the truckload and start growing things. And I bought that house, like I said, for $35,000. I lived there. Basically, I didn't live there very much. I owned the house. I worked on the house. Stayed with my boyfriend at his house, which is that tiny lot in St. Paul with the double house. And finally was able to remodel that house completely and sell it. Sold it for like $180,000 10 years after buying it.
Go, Pat.
In the meantime, we're looking for a place to move to because now we knew we could use the money from that house to move.
Mm-hmm.
So we started looking. We looked in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, because we wanted to get out of the cold. And on one of those trips, I had my mom and dad with me. They were currently living on the Iron Range in Minnesota. They'd retired, but they would love to go on these trips with us. And we were coming up through Arkansas and went through Springfield, and it just looked like home to me. It looked like a place I wanted to live. So, and it was Sutherland's on the highway that I marked it by. I thought, this looks like home. So we started looking in Missouri, running back and forth, and bought the place we're at now in '05. And what we used was $40,000 of the profit of my little house in St. Paul, and the remainder of that money went into the remodel of the double house so that we could then rent that out and use that income to live down here with a house that had a smaller mortgage and a payment that was affordable. So that's where we sit now. We have a house with a mortgage at 3%, but we paid $240 for it, and we owe $130 maybe right now, and it's affordable. And we have the income from the rental house in St. Paul that we were never able to sell, thankfully. So immediately I start gardening because that's what I do. I start playing in the dirt.
Yes.
And I was doing just regular gardening around the yard because we have 35 acres. But we fenced off, because of my animals and my dogs and our rescues, we fenced off 300 feet square in each direction with a 5-foot fence. The little 2x4 square. I don't know what kind of fence it's called, but anyway. And in that area, I started making little beds and dug up for a vegetable garden and landscaped it, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And one day, I was looking up something online, and I saw an article that said, make some astounding amount of money in 1 square foot of your yard. And that was Mike McGroarty's website. And I started reading about how he bought baby Japanese maples and would grow them out and then flip them and sell them. And he was a proponent of selling from your house. And of course, I'm computer illiterate, so I didn't buy into that part of it, but his program, for like $300 and some, you could buy in as a lifetime member and have access to other growers who would sell you plants and would answer questions also. And I thought, my God, that's cheap tuition to get this kind of an education. So I just poured over that stuff, and pretty soon I was propagating plants with some of the methods that he said, by cutting plants and sticking them in sand and keeping them in the shade and watering them and doing the tug test and checking for roots. And then I would pot them up. And I had made a call to Cece, Garlic from the farmer's market in Bolivar. And she took my call and chatted for a little bit, and we talked about me coming to market. And she was going to call me back, and I hung up, and she never called me back. And it was a year or more later when I finally realized I've got thousands of plants here. I really need an outlet for these plants.
And were they baby Japanese maples, or what kinds of?
It wasn't the Japanese maples. No, what I did was I started playing around with the plants I already had. So I had a rose bush, Joseph's Coat rose bush next to the house. And I took cuttings of that. And they're supposed to be hard to propagate. But by golly, they did what they were supposed to for me. So I had some of those, and I had the autumn joy sedum that, this is a laugh. My neighbor was very resourceful, and he alerted us to the fact that Aldi's threw out things frequently. And I was a dumpster diver, and so was he. And we would go, and he brought me a bunch of what looked like dead plants from Aldi's spring sales that had gone in the dumpster, because Aldi has no ability to keep plants alive. They can't even get them through one watering, right. Because they just can't. Sure. So he brought me a package, which I still have the originals, of about 12 autumn joy sedums. So I had the autumn joy sedums, and I had my rose bush, and I just practiced on everything. I had some Rose of Sharon, I had some crepe myrtles, and then I bought some plants online through my group, the Annabelle hydrangeas. So I was buying, you can buy sticks. So I was a stick farmer. I still am a stick farmer. You buy sticks in the fall of these dormant hardwood cuttings, and you stick them in sand, and you put them in the shade, and you water them on any day it's over 45 degrees. And in the spring, they take off and they put out leaves, and then they start putting on roots. And by sometime in May or so, you can pot them up, and you can take them to the farmer's market and sell basically a plant that you bought for, I think it's $8 for 50 sticks. And your success rate's pretty high, so over 50%. So I can take one of those sticks and turn it around and sell it for $5 or $6. And I thought, wow, this is pretty good, right? So I started going to the farmer's market, and people were kind of laughing at me because I was new, and nobody else was selling perennials and shrubs like Weigelias and like I said, the Rose of Sharon, the crepe myrtle, Weigelia. I did hibiscus from seed. I did bush clover, Japanese, I think it's called Japanese bush clover, and variegated dogwood, and you name it, I was selling it. And the regulars at market, including Gardenero's, Gardener's Orchard, they're out on 13. They're just over the county in Polk County, just over the Greene County line, right 6 miles from me. Andre was there. Andre's just a giant of a kid in his 20s. And he was teasing me all the time. And I was the only one, and I was still selling plants at the end of July. And Parker from Parker Farms was saying, "Are you crazy? Nobody sells plants in July and August." And I said, "Well, I do." And so I just kept selling them. And I was going into the 1st of October at the farmer's market selling plants. I'm not getting rich or famous, but I'm making connections. And all of these farmers are encouraging me about all the benefits of a high tunnel. And I'm saying, yeah, but I'm a stick farmer. I can't grow this stuff. The USDA requirements don't allow that. And they said, well, you can grow vegetables. And then I got to thinking, well, you know, I can have a high tunnel. And it's at that time, even cut flowers weren't allowed. It was just food. I thought, well, you know, I can put my sticks in there for blackberries and raspberries, and I can put strawberry runners, and I can put fig trees, and I can still comply without actually selling food, because I'm doing the plants that are food plants, and I'll just keep growing them in there and take the cuttings and do cuttings and sell those plants. Well, then I got approved for the high tunnel. But I didn't get it that year because there was no funding. I was approved, but there wasn't enough funding for me.
So that was the USDA money?
Yes, yeah, for the grant. And so I just reapplied, and lo and behold, I got approved. And this time there was money. So it was such a long wait. They approved me in April. I ordered the high tunnel in August, and I had to pay out of pocket for this stuff and get reimbursed. So I ordered it from a place in Iowa, Knowles, which I come to find out are related to the Morgan County Mennonite community anyway.
Wow.
They just have different prices. So they brought my high tunnel on a semi in like September. So I think it was Labor Day weekend, actually, a year ago. And it wasn't up until New Year's Eve. And
New Year's Eve of 2022.
Yes.
Going into 2022.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a long ride, isn't it? I finally moved here in 15. From buying the house in 05, moved here in 15, started playing around with the gardening. My mother lived down here. I was taking care of her somewhat. My brother lived with her. She passed in 18. She never got to see me she knew I loved my plants, and she watched me start to name the nursery and get my license, but I had to change the name because she couldn't remember Sycamore Branch, and neither could anybody else. So at that point, I realized I'm doing everything right smack in front of the garage, even though we have 35 acres. Such an itsy bitsy little space, so it became Itsy Bitsy Acres.
I love it.
Which is also what we called the dog, because it was such again, the opposite. She's a 75-pound blue-nosed pit bull that we rescued from St. Paul, and she's not itsy bitsy, and so we called her Itsy Bitsy. And it became Nina Bitsy, and anyway, that's the dog I lost on Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
I just miss her so bad.
Oh, my God. I lost my dog in June, and I'm just not over it.
Yeah, you can't get over it like that because they're closer to you than people.
So close.
Sorry, Mom. My mom she got it though. I was close to my dog. And this is like the 4th or 5th time this has happened. It doesn't get easier. So anyway, that's where the name came from. And so now I've got 2,880 square feet of dirt in an high tunnel. And what am I going to plant? And I just can't resist doing vegetables. I have to do vegetables. Because who doesn't want to try everything, right? So I've got a mobile home on the property that my sister-in-law was supposed to move to. She moved in with us. We went and rescued her from California in 2019, right after my mom passed. I had time to focus on my sister-in-law, and it turned out, we didn't know it, she was already having issues with dementia. So she came to live with us, and she had her 4 dogs and 6 cats. We have a walkout basement. She moved into the basement level, which sounds terrible, a cellar dweller, but it was a very nice basement. And she ate with us and everything, but her dogs went out in their own private yard because my dog would kill her dogs. Anyhow, so she was supposed to, we bought the mobile thinking she was going to move into it and be independent but close, and she never was able to do that. So I started using the mobile, and I put all my houseplants in there for the winter because she was taking up my basement space. And then I also started doing the germination under lights for my seedlings for the high tunnel. So I was doing, at one point I had like 500 lettuce babies, different types of lettuces. And I've not been a fan of growing lettuce before, but I was all in on this because everybody likes it at the market, and we'd lost the salad farm at the market, which was Ron and Sonia. They had a huge following at the market, and we were desperate at the market last fall to try to fill their space because they gave little notice and just took off. And they used to have lines of people waiting for their greens and their onions, and they grew things year round. Ronald and Sonia did. I went and saw their operation, was on good terms with them, visited them. They were friends.
Is this the market in Bolivar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Ron and Sonia left, and I know that the market needs lettuce and greens because that big gaping hole from the salad farm. So I thought I could step up and do some of that. So I grew lettuces from seed. Then I bought some from the Amish auction up at Central Missouri, the Central Missouri Produce Auction. The prices were incredible. I was able to buy some perennial plants and a bunch of vegetable starts. I got broccoli and cabbage and some tomatoes and some green peppers, and to go along with my tomato starts, because I did the heirloom tomatoes from seed. So before you knew it, it's mid-April, beginning of May, and I'm growing lettuces, and I've got bok choy, and it's wonderful. It's heaven in that greenhouse. I mean, it's not a greenhouse, it's a high tunnel, but it would be 50 degrees outside, and it would be 80 in that high tunnel in the spring. And I would raise the sides every day and raise them down every night because it was still getting cold. And I would have to row cover every once in a while because stuff might freeze.
So do you have raised beds in there, or did you go right into the ground?
Yeah, you aren't allowed to have raised beds, but what I did was brought in dirt to amend the soil, compost from Greene County. And then I got Andre, I hired him to come with his tractor and till it up for me. And then I dug pathways, and I took the good dirt from the pathways and threw it up on the beds, which made elevated beds, but not enclosed because that's not allowed. So each bed is 30 inches wide, and the high tunnel is 29 by 96. And I have got, I think I've got 7 rows in there. And not all of them are planted at any one time because I'm super new at this in the big picture. I mean, 8 months in, I'm new. So I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and I don't have the infrastructure in place like everybody else does. So my lettuces are selling well at market, but I really don't quite know how to keep them fresh, and people are telling me how to do that, and I'm just bugging everybody I know and questioning them, and how do you keep them fresh? So I started cutting them, taking them up by the roots, literally, because I could keep them alive for a week with their roots still on, which made I could make 2 markets instead of just 1. And that was fun. Selling lettuce was fun. And my onions were beautiful. The green onions and the radishes, just beautiful. And then it became tomato season. And now I've got my tomatoes planted. And I've got 120 plants in 1 row. Because I got 60 down each side. So that's 1 row out of 7 in the high tunnel filled with tomatoes. Got them in super late. And they start to grow. And what am I going to do? I have to get the hooks up. So I hire somebody to work with me. And we're putting hooks up on the cable. The cable's got to go first. And that's a 100-foot cable from Harbor Freight. Really inexpensive. And then I got the hooks and the twine from Morgan County Seed. And I ordered little clips for the tomatoes, and I meant to order 1,000. And for some reason, I accidentally got 10,000. I mean, I'm not sorry because I'm going through a lot of them, but 10,000 is a lot of clips.
That's a lot of clips.
Yes. So I'm struggling with these hooks, and each one has a string, and it comes down to the ground, and then you clip the tomatoes on, which is really nice. It's kind of like the Little Shop of Horrors. I've got these really well-behaved tomato plants for about 6 weeks. Then they're not well-behaved. They're everywhere. And there still are not any red tomatoes, but my gosh, the work involved, I got to go pinch suckers, and I've got to train them up, and I've got to cut the branches at the bottom, and in the meantime, the onions are needing harvesting over here, and the lettuces are going to go to seed, and the bok choy did go to seed. And Adam comes over and I'm giving him peas. Oh my gosh, I had 500 feet of sweet peas because I planted 5 rows in one 30-inch bed and suspended a piece of fencing from the ceiling, the top. It's just a learning experience. It's like a circus at my house.
So you're talking about Adam from the USDA?
Yes, Adam was over and he was cutting his own peas.
And look, I love how you go so big. I love it. She's just like, I'm gonna get in 7 rows.
Andre from Gardener's Orchard lent me his little Earthway planting machine, which is like a people cultivator thingy. You push it and it's got the wheels on it that drops the seed when you're supposed to. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'll do 5 rows, which was kind of a mistake for 2 reasons. 4 would have been plenty because I didn't have my irrigation in yet. Because I'm still so far behind the curve, I'm doing everything I can just to get things in the ground, right? So now I'm watering by hand. It's taken me an hour or more a day to water by hand because I don't know how to set up the irrigation. So it wasn't until mid-June that I took pieces to the market and I showed them to Andre and Matt from Heritage Farm. And I said, how in the heck do you hook these things up? And they showed me. I thought, oh, God, that's so simple. How could I not figure that out? And these people are so, they're used to it. They've been doing this for years. And I'm such a newbie. And Andre at one point, I said, what am I doing wrong? And I know he's my friend because he wouldn't say this to somebody he didn't like. He said, well, if you were just younger and prettier. And I just, that was hilarious because he wouldn't say that to me if he didn't think I was friendly. You know, you just don't insult people like that because, yeah, it was pretty funny. Anyway,
that's a bit of the Ozarks as well, isn't it?
it was, well, he came from Romania. I mean, he was born here, but his family came from Romania, and I don't think he was even allowed to watch TV his entire life. His first experience with TV would have been on his phone. So really old school family there. There's a lot of that in I don't know. It's tough because I feel privileged. I don't need the income from the farmer's market. But a lot of people really need the income, and they're struggling. And to see them bring all the things they grow to market and then not sell it all and have to throw it away or donate it. I don't think a lot of them donate it. I think that's sad. I think the belief is that if they donate it, it runs down the price of their goods because people will wait knowing it's going to get donated. And I fortunately haven't been in that position yet except with tomatoes, which again, my sprawling all over the place tomatoes. They're over 9 feet tall. And I have not done the lean and lower thing on them yet. And I'm picking tomatoes above my head at this point. Like last night, tomatoes above my head. It's insane. It just changes everything in that high tunnel. It changes everything. So I'm giving those to my neighbors, though, regularly. And I told Adam to come and get some, but apparently he's too busy or something.
This is his busy time.
Yeah. So I am also now have started to plant fall things. So I've got the broccoli started in cell packs. I've got cabbage. I've gotten some flowers. My dahlias, I planted them. Of course, couldn't get back to them, so they're all falling over. They're blooming profusely, and I'll be taking some cut flowers to market because I need to find out which thing I'm going to focus on. And I don't want to waste time trying. I'm older. I'm not going to have lots of years to try to figure this out. I need to ramp it up, right? So I've got like 36 dahlia bulbs, but the beauty of that is the high tunnel will never be so cold that I have to dig them. So I can leave them right where they're at. And I'm just starting to cut those. I planted some zinnias just like 10 days ago, and they're doing great. And I'll have plenty of time before frost to sow those. Cosmos, bachelor button, sunflowers from Johnny's, beautiful summer mix sunflowers. And so I'm still hoping to hit that market a little bit. And I planted a second row of tomatoes later. So that's what I needed was another 120 tomato plants that are totally out of control. They're beautiful, though. They are so luscious. They're so vibrant. They just love what they're doing in there. And then the hornworms came, but not very many of them. And my friend at market, Crystal Grosner from Grosner's Farm, she said, well, that's easy. You buy this particular black light. Crystal's smart. She homeschools their kids. Josh they're just amazing people. And she said there's this black light, but you got to get a certain wavelength, and you go out at night and you shine it, and they show up like neon, and you can pick off the hornworms. So they linked me up to the site, and I ordered one. And a couple of, not too long, maybe only a week ago, I think it's because I planted my tomatoes late, and so I have the late hornworms too, because the moths would put their babies in a position at the right time, and if I was late, so will the hornworms be, I think, because they're usually July 4th. So to find them so late is amazing. But I saw the damage from them, and it was getting dark, so I went in the house and grabbed my little light. Sure enough, there they are. They show up bluish green, just like neon. And you pick them off and dispose of them. In my case, throw them in the bushes so some bird can get them or something. Anyway.
So cool.
It's weird, though. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, so a couple of things that you have said, you were talking about this is good exposure and you're getting connected, and now you're talking about people who have given you advice.
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of community have you found here locally?
Oh, my gosh. When I first got here, the only friends, it's clannish down here. It's absolutely clannish. If you aren't a family member or a longtime friend of a family member, you don't have a chance. You got to find people in a different way. My neighbor was an exception. He passed away. He had a car accident, but that was Gary Brakebill, and he's been here his entire life. And he introduced me to some of the things, but no people. He was kind of standoffish himself. So when my mom was down here, I helped her find a house down here, and they moved down here, my mom and dad, before I did. And she had health issues. She had COPD, and the doctor recommended that she go to the cardio rehab clinic over at CMH. And so I started taking her 3 times a week. And I made so many friends there. The nurses, Ann Bristow, and she's a master gardener now, and Karma Muir, she's a plant freak, and she lives in Springfield. She was a nurse there. She had a little greenhouse at her house. And Rhonda Hart, so I made friends, and that was my social community. But it wasn't until I started going to the farmer's market that I connected with these other growers, like Sue Bramer. They have Bramer Farms, and they raise heritage turkeys and naturally grown hogs, and they're good friends now. They're just really good friends, but they still don't invite me in the house when I come over. But nobody does.
You were mentioning that in the elevator.
It's a thing. I mean, I think it's just a learned thing. Mm-hmm. It's just odd. Mm-hmm. They just don't invite you typically. I mean, it's not that it won't happen. It could happen, or maybe they don't want to impose, or they don't want to be turned down if you're in a hurry, or steal your time, or I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, but just in general, people aren't inviting you in when you visit.
Right,
yeah.
But they're friendly enough, absolutely friendly. We sit on the tailgate, we'll sit at the porch, we'll sit at the table in the yard, but not typically in the house. But when I go to market, I've got a unique position. The people who are established and are vendors of produce and edible things, they have to stay at their booth for the most part because they just do. But I don't sell as much as they do. And again, I said that they depend on that more than I do. And so for me, it's a nice break because I work full time.
You're still working?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So for me to go to market, that's my social time. And plus my dog has been sick for a while. I have many animals. My husband now has dementia. So market is an escape for me. So when I go there and set up my plants, I can watch them and I can go visit everybody's booth. And I can talk to Sue and Crystal and Josh and Cece, who does the berry farm, and Gardener's Orchard and the salad farm, and Sweet Bear and the coffee person, and Anna with her homemade aprons and things. And so those are my friends now. And I go to Willard too, and there's Donna Stewart. She's in Greene County. I don't know if you guys know Willard Market. That's not a farmer's market because I think there's guidelines. It's a Willard community market.
I see.
But except for in the spring when everybody brings all that bling flowers, annuals, after that I'm the only one with plants.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So talk me through how you prepare to go to market. Do you have a truck or a vehicle? Do you get up super early in the morning?
Okay, so I originally, when I was only selling plants and my sister-in-law was living with me, I would go to Fair Play on Tuesday morning, and she has a Nissan pickup, or she did have. She's passed away too as of December.
Oh, golly.
I know it's been a rough haul here for years. So we used her Nissan pickup, which has a small box and a camper, but it's got a double cab. And I figured out that I could get 9 6-packs of plants in the back of her truck. Those are the 6-packs that hold 6 1-gallon containers that you pick up from Walmart. And so Walmart has no problem with me going into their recycle bin and taking them home. And then I keep my plants at home on pallets. I have 28 pallets in the yard that hold all of my potted up plants, and I can water them easily because I can walk between the rows, mow between the rows. So I load up the best plants, always what's in bloom because everybody's chasing the bling, and I will load 9 6-packs into the back of that pickup. And then I have what I call my MacGyver shelf because I've always got overflow, and so I found a closet shelf, wired it together, and it sits up on top of the rails of the camper for a second layer. But it's pretty narrow, but I can fit like 3 flats of tomato starts in that if I want to sell those. And then now that I sell vegetables, though, the MacGyver shelf, I've added 2 fold-up bar stools, and the MacGyver shelf comes out and does a tabletop for my vegetables at the front of my booth. Before that, I didn't have that, so it's the MacGyver shelf. Anyway, it takes me only about 20 minutes to load up, and I keep in the back of the truck, the back seat of the truck, all of my signs, my roll-up signs, my vinyl signs, my business cards, my booklets for information. I will take my camera because I need to show people pictures of plants, what they will look like in different settings. And so I used to go to Tuesday morning at Fair Play. That closed down, so I don't remember what time that was. Probably an 8 o'clock start, so probably leaving my house at 6:30. And then I would turn around and go to the Bolivar Market on Tuesday afternoon also, and then go home. And I didn't have another market then till Saturday morning. So I'd load up at, a Friday night for a Saturday morning market. Now the current schedule is Friday at Willard, so I start loading up at like noon or so. I go to the high tunnel and I pick the tomatoes I'm going to take, whatever produce I'm going to take, and get it prepared. And then I go out and I load up my plants in the back because my produce will all fit in the front at this point. And I leave the house at 2:45 to get to Willard by 3:30 to get set up at market for a 4 o'clock start. And we close at 7. I'm back home by 7:30. I leave the truck loaded on Friday nights, and I get up at 5 a.m. on Saturdays, and I feed all my animals and get ready to go. And then I go to the Bolivar Market because I'm already loaded from the night before. Bolivar's from 8 to 12. I get home probably at 2 in the afternoon because I have to usually do errands and things. And then I unpack everything, water everything, and then we're all set for the week. So that's the routine.
Wow.
And I don't get rich and famous.
That's a lot of work. But is Itsy Bitsy Acres breaking even at least?
No, not now because I keep adding new things. It would, except that I'm always like buying. I bought a shade house because it turned out that the shade cloth that I got for the high tunnel wasn't quite big enough, and the price to ship it back was pretty high. So I just ordered another small high tunnel and put the shade cloth over that so that I can put my plants in there for the winter because the plants have to go in the ground for the winter. And currently they're all over my yard, and if I don't get them up in the spring and I don't let my husband touch the beds to mow them, we have Johnson grass like 10 feet tall. And I cannot keep up with that. I have to stop putting the plants in isolated beds in the landscape because it just looks so bad. So I've asked him to help me get dirt in this new shade house that's parallel. It's the same length as the high tunnel, but it's only 15 feet wide. And I want dirt on the ground, and I could put my plants, maybe keep them in the pots right there all winter, so in the spring I don't have that struggle.
So it sounds like you're working on maybe a 5-year plan or even a 10-year.
Oh gosh, I'm going to live forever at this rate. I certainly don't have mobility issues, and I think that's because I'm constantly in motion all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Do you think it has anything to do with eating fresh produce that you grow?
I could. I don't tell my other vendors this, but I strive to be vegan, and that doesn't go over well here. People are all about beef and chicken and pork, and I am compassionate, but it's not so much about the animals. It's just that everything I've ever heard or read or seen indicates that that is the best possible way of eating. That's what I think. So I eat a lot of produce.
Yeah. Well, they do. I think there's lots of studies that connect longevity with a plant-based diet. I think
Absolutely.
that's what the science
And
tells
plus, I was pretty bad for a while when, well, I told you my sister passed away in December, but then my aunt, my mother's sister, I was pretty close to her. She was my babysitter when I was really young. She passed away, and I just fell off the wagon, and I just have been eating fast food and garbage and meat products and tacos, and until like about 10 days ago, I stopped, just cold turkey, and I haven't had any meat or dairy since. So, and I feel better like that, and I sleep better, and I'm more functional. I just feel better, and my skin starts to change, and I look better, and I don't see the advantages of meat. I don't know why the animals have to die for us to eat when there's plenty of other options. It just doesn't make sense.
You've mentioned animals a few times at your farm.
Love animals.
But are they chickens? Like
No,
what kind of
no,
animals
I
are
would
you-
not, because then what am I going to do with these chickens when they're old?
Eggs. Oh.
No, I'm not eating eggs.
Oh.
And I don't know. The cost, if you take the cost of a chicken and raising it and the intensive labor, I don't think there's a profit for me in eggs. I think you have to do it so big that it wouldn't be worth it for me to do it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to waste my valuable time raising chickens when I can grow sticks. Because it is, I'll tell you, if you're growing sticks in a dishpan, I go to the Dollar Tree and I buy the dishpans and I poke holes in the bottom and I fill them with sand. I can fit over 100 cuttings in that dishpan. And if 50 of those root, 5 times 50 is how much? 200, is it 2250?
5 times 50 is 250.
250 or 2,000?
Isn't it 2,500?
250.
No.
5 times
Oh, yeah,
50.
5. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do 50. 50 times 50 is 2,500.
Yes.
Okay, so if half of those cuttings take and I sell them at $5,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money in
That's a lot.
basically 1 square foot.
Yeah.
Have I kept up? Does that really happen? I couldn't tell you at this point.
Right, because you're doing a lot of things.
Because I'm going to do it no matter if the numbers say yes or no, I'm going to do it. What will happen now this winter
Yeah.
is I'll probably get an opportunity to evaluate and figure out. I know that the sticks are extraordinarily profitable because they cost me so little. And it's a time thing. You put them in the shade house, and in the spring you flip them. So it's a time thing. And if you can make $5 or $6 for every one that roots, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why the vegetables are difficult. I love them.
It's not as high profit margin, I guess, is how the
Right,
business
but
people-
I'm legitimate now. People treat me different now that I actually grow an edible product versus a plant. It's funny, they just look at me different. I've got much higher standing in the farmer's market field right now.
Because you're bringing vegetables.
I guess, I think,
That's
yes.
hilarious.
But I think it's true.
Yeah.
I got new respect. I get a better spot at the market now.
Yeah.
People treat me different. And plus I've been around a number of years now, and maybe that's got something to do with it.
Well, this work is hard, and it seems like it's not necessarily profitable yet. So why do you keep doing it? What do you love about it?
Oh gosh, I love everything that grows. I love seeing my seeds are particularly fascinating for me. That you can take something that's all dry and looks like nothing, and it just, against all odds, will grow. It's life. It's just life. I'm in charge of life. I'm God in my high tunnel. I'm God. I have an organized creation, like the Garden of Eden. Only I'm controlling it without any electronics. It's all in my hands in the dirt. And it's just an amazing thing to me. It's just, I would do it anyway, but the opportunity to fool myself into thinking I'm making money makes it legitimate. Do you know what I mean? It's a good thing I don't need the money to live on, although it would be nice to at least cover my expenses, and maybe I am. Maybe. I'll find out when tax time comes. But the experience of it is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
Priceless.
the people who do it are not the same as people who don't. The people who grow food aren't like people who only eat food. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
I agree with you. People who grow food get it in a different kind of way, maybe.
I don't know what it's about, but so I think that it's just the whole farmer's market, the uniqueness of the growing and the way people do and how they scramble around looking for the answer to what to do. Like, I had some friends that when we went to the Amish market, bought a lot of blingy things to sell at the farmer's market, because all you have to do is grow it out for a while, then you legitimately can sell it at the farmer's market. Although the farmer's market frowns on just buying and reselling. You can't do that. You have to have value added in some way. So, and they're constantly chasing, what can I do? How can I present this? And they got a tray of broccoli. And they took a chance because the price was so ridiculously low, like $7 for 48 plants. And they stuck them in the ground super early and it paid off. They sold every head of broccoli. And they like that so much that they're trying to do it in the fall now too, and they're looking for that particular brand. But it's this constant evaluation of where is the best profit for me? Is it in selling the chickens? Is it in selling vegetables? Is it selling plants? Where is it? Is it leasing my land out? Because Missouri is different from where I came from in Minnesota. The poverty here is an independent sort of poverty. And in Minnesota, it's a dependent sort of poverty, at least in the city. I grew up on a hobby farm, but most of my adult life I was in the city. And if you have a problem, you typically can contact a government agency for help. You can get something. A food shelf is nearby, something. In Missouri, if you're broke, you better figure it out. There's not a safety net. And I have found people here to be so much more self-reliant and so much more capable of solving the problems that just happen in everyday life. And the attitude is different. The attitude is, if I wake up today and I'm breathing, it's a great day. And that's just so refreshing to me, that's all. And maybe I get that from my parents who were born and raised here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm doing a terrible interview here.
No, you're doing a terrific.
Oh my gosh.
I'm loving everything. What do you wish you knew before you started Itsy Bitsy Acre Farms?
I wish that I had educated myself more before starting it, because once I started doing things, the precious time to learn was taken up by the actual labor. And I can't reconcile in my brain letting plants or vegetables die so that I can sit at a computer and learn things. So I wish that I had known more. On the other hand, I wouldn't have known what I didn't know if I hadn't started. And I got to tell you that I don't think I could have done this 15 or 20 years ago, because YouTube, videos, people, thank God for people who just have to share what they know. Just, it's out there. You search for it, and it's out there. If you want to apply yourself, you can look at 10 different answers and pick one or two and try them. Pretty soon, I do that, and I'm the one telling people then. So the sharing, nobody is stingy about this. They are just not stingy about information. And I really, really love that.
There's a real generosity with
Absolutely.
time and
Spirit.
knowledge.
It's a spirit thing. Now, they might be stingy or a little bit close-handed with what they make or how their profit margins and things like that, but information is shared freely. It's there. If you're interested, it's there. People are not, they're not sharing. With me now, I will offer it. Sometimes I have to ask people. They don't just say, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. But I'm more outgoing than a lot of people. Let's just say I'm not shy.
Have you ever had somebody come back to you after you gave advice and tell you how it went?
Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah. I've had people try to propagate things, and some of them have been successful. Some come to me knowing how to propagate some things and want to ask about other things, and they have questions about what's the best time of the year and how long does it take, and they'll come and talk to me about a shrub that's ugly, and they especially laugh at me when I say things like, I do houseplants too a little bit. And the houseplants tend to commingle with each other, like they'll drape into the pot next to them. And when I say that to people, they just get just a kick out of me saying these plants are misbehaving. they're commingling and trying to live with each other in the same pots, and it's just funny.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Well, houseplants have really taken off. I think during the pandemic, it was a big thing for people to get into houseplants.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. The pandemic didn't affect me. It didn't affect the farmer's market. We're outdoors. It didn't affect us. In fact, it drove things up, I think, during the pandemic.
The prices.
Well, the people coming to the market because they didn't have to go in a store. And you know, in Missouri, people don't like to wear masks. And so, and I'm one of those people actually. But if they can shop outside, they don't have to wear a mask. Some of them did anyway, but I think it was the whole idea that they didn't have to risk. And at that time, remember, people didn't know if the virus lived on packaging. And if you bought it from the market, there was no packaging. It didn't come from China. It didn't come from 3 states away. It wasn't touched by, say, a ton of migrant workers who didn't follow the guidelines for COVID, which turned out to be fairly stupid in some cases anyway. But they were really anxious to buy things from local people.
Yeah.
And I wasn't selling food then, unfortunately.
Oh,
But,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think there's more trust in your local community
Yeah.
than stuff that came in from the outside. So I'd love to get you to brag on yourself a little.
Huh.
So what do you feel like is your most sort of satisfying success since you started doing this? What are you happiest
Oh,
about?
there's so many. There really,
Tell
I mean,
tell them all to
when
me.
I look back, I can't believe that I have a high tunnel. I can't believe that I went through the process of finding out how to order the stuff, get it delivered in a timely fashion so a contractor could actually put it up. It just amazes me that I look out the window and there it is. And that I've gotten plants to actually produce things there. I don't know how to explain it. It's miraculous. It's second to having the ability to grow a plant from a seed and have it actually do something. To have this world, because that's not what I came from. I came from my dad growing some tomatoes in an open field with no irrigation, and it either survived or it didn't. And here I am, and my dad would have loved to have been able to see what I'm doing because he loved flowers. But because he was so, that Ozarky thing I told you about, he would not bring himself to devote time and effort and money to flowers. If it didn't produce food, he wasn't growing it. But he loved my flower beds at that little house that I told you about in St. Paul that had the 3 city lots. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that sold so well is the lady who bought it from me had come by numerous times before the house was remodeled and admired the gardens. And so I knew her in advance, and at one time I took her through the house. And I told her I was going to do this and this and this. And I didn't remember this, but she did. When she bought the house, she said, I really thought you were a little misguided at the time. But I wasn't. It turned out exactly as I told her it was going to. So persistence is everything here. But so I'm a female with no farming experience. I know nothing about irrigation, pests, fertilization, nothing. Nothing. What I know how to do is put my hands in the dirt and give a plant an opportunity. And for them to respond so well to that and to be able to have the opportunity to read what they need and for me to respond back, it sounds ridiculous, but there's that communication and connection between plants and people. And they do this and I do this. And together, it's not, the plant doesn't do it alone and I don't do it alone, but together we do what nature intended there. That's it. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah. It's very satisfying.
It is, and I can't tell you why. It just is. So I'm just bonded to dirt. I mean, I carry it around with me under my fingernails, right? Just in case I forget.
I don't know if you saw my nails. So, I'm mostly just a houseplant lady, though. I don't have a lot of space.
So the houseplants, I ordered online. I went to Etsy in the fall last year, somewhere around Thanksgiving, and I think I ordered 250 succulent starts, and they came in the mail. And I had 4 10-20 trays, 10 inches by 20 inches, with trash bag liners filled with sandy soil and stuck every one of those in that soil. And by spring, I was selling them for $3, $4, and $5 a piece.
People love succulents.
The thing is, though, is that I have so many splinters. Which way do I go here? If I devote it to houseplants, that wouldn't satisfy me enough. But it fills a niche in the market that people want, and I can become the one-stop shop, you know? So I can sell some of those. Then I've got some other houseplants, the spider plants, the wandering Jews. Can we call them that anymore, or is that politically incorrect?
It's okay.
Anyway, and there's a market for those. And then there's the produce people, and then there's the landscaping people. And it's just, you gotta try to do a little bit of everything, I guess. But it makes you really wear thin on what you're doing, because I still don't have all the infrastructure in my high tunnel. I've got these 7 rows, and that's the focus this year is the high tunnel, and I'm under contract for 5 years, or I have to pay back the grant. Now, would it kill me to pay back the grant? No. Wouldn't kill me. But why? Why would I want to when I can comply? All I have to do is grow food and cut flowers in it. And I don't even have to fill it. And so there's that.
Well, so what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's starting out? Would you
Start. Just start. Don't wait. Just start. It'll all come to you. You won't know what you don't know till you start. Just start.
Mm-hmm. Leap and the net will appear.
Well, yes, because I've done that my whole life, and it's worked out okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody said life is easy. It's just possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just do the best you can to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
In all ways.
Do you feel like that's something that you learned from your dad back in those days with the tomatoes?
I don't recall learning specifically from my dad. My dad was not a teacher in the sense where, look at this. He might have, and I don't remember it. I just absorbed it. It may have come from him. I couldn't tell you. I got to tell you, when he moved down here, though, and he bought a house, and he found out that the soil here, because he was from Moberly up in the Sedalia or Columbia area, a lot nicer soil up there. He got his place in Brighton and trying to grow tomatoes, and you can't dig in this clay and this rock. And so he was thrilled when we managed to get him some of those blue barrels and cut them in half, and he could plant tomatoes. And he would bring in a measly tomato, and he'd say, well, here's the harvest. It was just hilarious because he so admired my ability to raise tomatoes. He always listened to my advice about tomatoes. And I didn't know anything about tomatoes then compared to now, but he would have loved it. And so, yeah, he liked to garden. He liked hollyhocks. I don't know. He didn't specifically teach me anything, but my mom certainly didn't, because she still doesn't know it. The day she died, she didn't know. So I must have had it from him, because nobody else taught me.
So, well, I mean, like you said, you taught yourself.
Right, but I don't remember teaching myself. The early parts, I really don't. I don't know where, because there was no internet. Where did I pick up gardening stuff? I don't even know.
Just learn by doing.
I guess, yeah.
Just a natural. Some people have a really good ability to just remember. They see the leaf once, like you said.
Yes,
and they remember, and that's easy.
Yeah.
I'd have to study the leaves in a booklet or something, and I forget it as soon as it's out of my head or out from in front of me.
I think there might be a genetic thing there.
Maybe.
And nobody's ever probably, I should look that up, because like I said, I don't remember not knowing. We had 7 apple trees. I know what an apple tree or a fruit tree, a pear tree looks like. I'm not going to mix it up. Cucumbers, I'll mix up cucumbers, squashes, all those plants of the same family. But I also felt like when we were looking for a place to live, that there's something genetic or DNA that says this land looks like home versus different land not looking like home. And I heard that Missouri was settled by people who originally came from Scotland and settled in the eastern mountains. And it got so crowded and there was so little available land that would grow things that they moved west.
And so there's a big Scottish, Irish sort of.
So like almost like an ancestral pull.
Correct, with the mountains, the old mountains, which the Ozarks are the oldest one in the United States. But I think that there's a pull to that. And it's got to be the old mountains. The Rocky Mountains, the tall, craggy mountains are more for the mountaineers, the trappers, the adventurers. But people who work land, they go to that old mountain thing. So I got to tell you, it feels like home. So did Tennessee. But there was no space in Tennessee. It was too populated there to get what we wanted. And I think there's just a draw to that. And the way it looks going to Branson in the spring, that green on those hills, just gorgeous. You can't beat that view. Just love it.
Yeah.
I'm rambling again.
It's like, oh no. This is the stuff I love. The
I
touchy-feely
know.
stuff.
Well, and I have a question for you because I really enjoyed hearing your kind of interpretation of Ozarks people. And your parents were from here,
Yes.
but then you've lived in other places.
Yes.
And so, I don't know, like, is there anything else top of mind that you notice about people from the Ozarks? They don't invite you in.
Well,
They're
I don't-
friendly, but they don't invite you in.
That could be a rural thing, but not a
Yeah.
Missouri thing. I'm not sure. They are the self-reliance. We talked about that.
Definitely.
The absolute
definitely.
protection of what's theirs. Absolute. And that could be a rural thing too. But there are absolute boundaries to what's mine, my property, my kids, my wife, my husband, my possession. I shouldn't say possession. It's what I perceive to be mine, I will protect till my dying breath. It's so strong, and I feel that too. So if you don't have people with land, you will find them doing that with their partners and their kids. Absolutely stand up right in your face. You're not going to take what's mine. And that's why, well, show me state.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
It's like
you're not going to take what
independence.
you're not going to take what I think is mine. You're not going to take it without a fight. You can try, but it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to just show you my belly. I'm not going to roll over.
Yeah.
So my dad was like that. He was on strike one time at Armour's, and when we lived in Inver Grove Heights, on this little hobby farm, I had already left home, but I was visiting back and forth, and he was in the strike line, and a police car came, and he wouldn't move, and so the car hit him, and he was literally on the hood of that car.
Wow.
It was going slow enough; it didn't hurt him, but he was a rebel, kind of, sort of. And they would go after work to cash their checks from the stockyards where he worked. He was a welder, and they'd all go to the bar, and all the guys would go in, cash their check, and have a drink, and my dad would just sit in the car. He wasn't going to drink. Wasn't his way. He wasn't going to drink. Just was funny.
But while he was on strike, he actually took a hit.
Oh, yeah.
For what he believed
Mhm.
in. Like
That's
that
what
kind
I'm talking about.
That kind of authenticity, I think. is
Right,
important.
right. And
Yeah.
I kind of have that too. I remember working a paper route when I was like 12 years old. And it was delivering flyers door to door, where we were all these teenagers were in a van, and we would put these flyers on the doors on routes and then get picked up at the end of the route. And a dog had gotten hit on the road, and I would not let that dog lay in the street because that's not who I am. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. So I was kneeling in the street with that dog and took him, at least, I don't remember what happened to him. I got him off the street, but I remember being mocked for that. And I didn't like it, but I didn't dislike it enough to change what I was doing because I'm just not going to.
Yeah, you follow through on how you feel.
And I don't know if that's a stubbornness. I think that's where the Missouri Mule thing comes in. I don't know that it's stubbornness so much as you've already, early in your life, established who the heck you are. And that is such a rare thing anymore, to know who you are. Look at all of these, sorry, I'm going to get political, these changes from transgender things. I can't believe there's that many people like that. And I think part of it because there aren't parents who let kids understand who they are early. And to allow children to think that they can change who they are on a whim is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. So how can you be anybody if you don't determine who you are at all? You're nobody.
There's definitely a thread in the Ozarks, I think, about like know thyself.
Right.
And have this
Right. And is
authenticity.
God wrong? Is God wrong? Does he make mistakes? Does she make mistakes? Who's God? Who?
That's above my pay grade.
But it's
But-
kind of, it sounds like it's not related, but it is related. It's related to, like, a tomato plant is always a tomato plant. It's never going to be any different. It's not going to fool you. It's not going to lie to you. Neither is your dog. They are what they are. You won't find a female dog wanting a sex change operation. You won't find a tomato saying, well, I long to be a cucumber. It's not going to happen. The DNA is there. They are what they are. And that's why I think the whole thing is bogus. Sorry. My opinion. I'm entitled.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I just don't like it. I don't like that trend. I think that the goal there is to establish so many splinter groups that there is no United States anymore. If you have that many splinter groups, there's no common cause. And I hate that. I hate
So
that.
different from how it was back in the 70s in St. Paul when we had like the Mary Tyler Moore, like this kind of sense of
My
like,
boss
everything
owned
was
that house.
optimistic.
My
You're
boss,
kidding.
because that's my job now, is property management in St. Paul,
Oh.
which I have no history of.
Uh-huh.
I fell into that because I lost my job first of all, I had all these work injuries. Nobody would hire me. I did house cleaning. And then I graduated into the janitorial, businesses, commercial businesses.
Yeah.
And in 2008, the economy tanked. And that's when we weren't able to sell our house either. So my husband was driving a dump truck. And he had bought the truck because it was doing well. And we lost the janitorial account. There was no more truck jobs. And this is funny. So my husband's nephew lived down at on the corner of Seven Corners in St. Paul. That's primarily Spanish, and that's where Cinco de Mayo is done every spring. It's like the third biggest in the nation or something. And I was down there with my husband visiting his nephew, Scott. And Scott was a sponsor for a friend named Bill Hansen of the Von Hansen Meat Company. Bill Hansen is talking to me. I've never met him before in my life. And he said, hey, my boss, he's killing me here. I used to be a landscaper, and he wants me to do community gardens. Do you know anything about that? I said, well, I know a little bit about gardening, but not community gardens. He said, well, here, help me out. Here's the list of properties. Go look at them. So I went and looked at them. I couldn't find half of the addresses. They were in Frogtown in St. Paul. And then there was one that was within a mile of my house, right down off of West 7th Street where I was living. And I went and looked at that lot, and I talked to Bill, and he said, why don't you meet my boss? Because I don't want to do this, and if you do this, this will be great. So I met the boss, which is Dave Bush, and he said, so you want to do a community garden? I said, well, it's going to cost this much for the dirt, it's going to cost this much for this, and this much for the irrigation, and this much. He said, well, that's too much. Can you do it cheaper? I said, sure. We can do no side rails. We can just do raised dirt. We can not do irrigation. We can plug into the house across the street. And he said, do you want to do it or not? And I said, well, it's pretty late in the season. He said, can you do it or not? You can keep all the money that you make on it. And I said, where's the money? He said, I don't know. You figure it out. Do you want to do it? I said, sure. I'll do it on that one lot and try it. So I sold plots 8 by 16 for $50 each for people to garden in the neighborhood. And we sold about 5 or 6 of them and did the rest ourselves. And I would give him produce. And then when the fall came, and well, he needed a dump truck because he was remodeling one of his houses. He had 29 houses in the Frogtown area. They were all blue sticker houses, condemned. They all had to be brought up to code before they could be rented out. And he only had like 5 rentals at that time that were operating. But one house needed to be remodeled, so my husband's dump truck was used, and they'd fill it with debris and haul it to the dump. And pretty soon, this was in the fall, it sounds like a cheap novel, a cold, rainy night, he said, listen, I don't have anybody to do this. You want to collect some rent for me? And I said, well, I'm trying to move to Missouri, so I don't know how long this is going to work for. This was in 2009. And I started collecting rent. And he just keeps giving me more money, and I can't bear to quit, even though I don't live there anymore.
So was that your first experience with community gardens?
Yes.
And are you working closely with the Springfield Community Garden?
No.
here?
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, that's
Not at all. I go and look at, I get all of my firsthand information, and nobody yells at me,
yeah.
by going to Amanda Bell's farm. Because I can wander up and down the aisles. right? I've been there.
Hey, well, let us know, and we'll let
Yeah,
our
they'll
farmer
give you-
take you around
they'll
if
give
you
you a
want.
tour.
Well,
Yeah,
I ask who's ever there. I ask them questions.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
didn't
so I was
realize.
looking at the lean and lower thing, and I eat
Yeah.
a few tomatoes even if it's unauthorized, because what are they going to do? Shoot me?
We like to share.
Yeah, and so I think I actually have seen you there.
You
once.
might. I was actually going to say you look really familiar.
Well, this was probably the first time when I didn't have the high tunnel yet, but I had it contracted, and I believe I talked to you a little bit about Valentine putting up the roller one for you guys.
Possibly.
And I said I wasn't going to do anything that fancy, but yeah, and so I started looking at this spring. I would come to Amanda Bell and say, "Oh my gosh, the onions are this big. I got to go home and get my onions in," because I didn't know,
Yeah.
and it's just funny.
Well, and so that's really my last question is like, what kind of things would help you right now in your journey? How can Springfield Community Gardens help you?
I don't even know. I don't know. I should know more, but whatever you offer, I'm sure there's something I could use.
I have
I
some
just
ideas.
don't know what though.
Yeah, I have some ideas, and we can talk after if you want to. But I mean, it sounds like you're really good at seeing examples and then adapting it to your own needs.
Oh gosh, you ought to see
So-
my dahlia house.
Oh yeah.
Well, inside my high tunnel, I have the dahlias planted at the end, which is totally accidental because I didn't want to take up vegetable space, so I planted 36 dahlias between the door and the wall. And the grasshoppers are eating them to pieces. So I took my row covers, which are 100 feet long, and they're about 5 feet wide when they're stretched out. And I took thumbtacks and put them up on the 2x4 of the back of my high tunnel. And then I took strings and I attached it to the row cover and never cut it. I don't want to cut it and waste it. And then I dropped the sides down, wrapped it again, and clipped it with binder clips from my office.
Speaking of MacGyver.
And and I have a dahlia house that the bugs can't get in, and it's a house inside the high tunnel. Anyway, so
That's very smart.
That would be a
Well, if
great
anything-
photograph, especially with
yes,
those dahlias. Yeah,
yes.
they're very photogenic.
And if anything, we really have a knack for connecting growers like you with other growers who might know a little bit better and can just advise. Like we offer a really good network.
see, I
of
don't
people
have
who
I
don't
have my
mind sharing
I have my
information.
farmers market people, but they're busy too. And even in the winter, I'm trying to keep growing. I've been watching a guy who does this in New York, and he's been out to Norway and Sweden and all these these cold countries that grow year round without heat. And so I am just now getting ready to plant carrots. The question is, do the carrots grow when it's warm and just get sweeter because they're in the ground, or do they actually grow in the winter? I don't know. Same thing with turnips and beets. And so I still have all that stuff to plant. It's amazing though. I'm so excited about that, because if that happens, I will be the only one interested enough in my community to be growing through the winter for market. Some people will grow a few things under like little domes, cold frames for themselves. But I don't know of anybody who's actually growing in the winter for market.
You have several niche markets identified that you
So
could really.
many.
I mean, do you have an end goal?
No,
for it?
no. I keep thinking somebody. Have you heard the joke? No, this is off track, but you asked for it, you guys. A guy goes to church every week and he prays, "God, let me win the lottery. Just please let me win the lottery." And he does this week after week after week, and finally one day this thundering voice comes, "Help me out, buy a ticket." So it's kind of like I just keep going, and hopefully something will be illuminated for me, because I don't know what I'm doing. I honestly, but if I'm not doing it, I will never find the opportunity. The opportunity doesn't come chasing you. So I'm everywhere. I'm just out there. I'm always open.
I bet you would really benefit from talking to somebody over there at Community Gardens. Yeah, they have a huge resource network.
Okay, so where do we start with that?
Right,
And-
right.
And
You asked if we would talk again after today, and so I think that we shall.